Across the sun-scorched highways of America, a specter roamed. Paul John Knowles, a name whispered with dread. He was a phantom, elusive and deadly, leaving a trail of carnage in his wake. The manhunt was relentless, a desperate race against time. Every town, every hamlet was on high alert. Knowles was a chameleon, blending into the landscape, changing his appearance with chilling ease. He was a predator, stalking his victims with cold calculation. Families lived in fear, locking their doors, clutching their loved ones close. The air crackled with tension, with the chilling knowledge that a killer walked among them. The investigators worked tirelessly, piecing together the fragmented clues. Each crime scene was a macabre tableau, a testament to Knowles' brutality. The pressure mounted, the weight of expectation heavy on their shoulders. They knew that every passing moment could mean another life lost. The media frenzy amplified the fear. Knowles' face, plastered across newspapers and television screens, became a symbol of terror. His crimes, recounted in gruesome detail, sent shivers down the spines of the nation. The public was captivated, horrified, yet unable to tear their eyes away from the unfolding drama. Paul John Knowles was not born a monster. He was a child once, full of innocence and vulnerability. But somewhere along the way, the light within him dimmed, replaced by a darkness that grew with every passing year. His childhood was marked by instability, a breeding ground for resentment and anger. Knowles' early brushes with the law hinted at the darkness simmering beneath the surface. Petty thefts, minor assaults, a growing disregard for authority. Each transgression chipped away at his humanity, paving the path for something more sinister to emerge. His relationships were turbulent, marred by violence and manipulation. He drifted from town to town, a restless soul seeking solace in fleeting connections, finding none. He was a drifter, a loner, always on the fringes of society. His crimes escalated, the violence becoming more pronounced, the acts more depraved. The descent into true darkness was gradual, a slow poisoning of the soul. The man who would become a notorious serial killer was not born overnight. He was molded, shaped by a lifetime of pain, neglect, and a growing thirst for power. The first to fall prey to Knowles' deadly impulses were Alice Curtis and Lillian Eddington. Their lives, brutally cut short, marked the beginning of a reign of terror that would span several states. Curtis, a kind-hearted elderly woman, was found murdered in her own home, a scene of unimaginable violence. Eddington, a young woman full of life and dreams, vanished without a trace, her disappearance leaving a void in the hearts of her loved ones. The authorities, initially treating the cases as isolated incidents, soon realized they were dealing with something far more sinister. The fear that had been a murmur, a disquieting hum in the background, now amplified, taking on a chilling urgency. Families drew their curtains tight, clutching their children close, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that a killer walked among them. The investigation began, a race against time to uncover the truth, to find the perpetrator before he could claim another victim. Little did they know then that this was just the beginning, the first drops in a torrent of bloodshed that would stain Knowles' hands crimson. Knowles' rampage knew no bounds. His path of destruction crisscrossed the country, leaving a trail of bodies in its wake. From the sun-drenched highways of California to the humid backroads of Florida, he moved like a phantom, striking without warning, vanishing without a trace. Each victim was chosen at random, their lives extinguished in a horrifying instant. Families were torn apart, their grief a raw, open wound. The nation watched in horror as the body count rose, the killer's audacity growing with every passing day. The authorities were baffled. The seemingly random nature of the killings, the lack of a discernible pattern, made Knowles an elusive target. The media was in a frenzy, the public gripped by a morbid fascination with the case. Knowles, meanwhile, reveled in the attention. He sent taunting letters to newspapers, boasting of his crimes, providing cryptic clues that only deepened the mystery surrounding him. He was a puppet master, manipulating the narrative, playing a deadly game with the lives of innocent people. The American South became Knowles' hunting ground. The humid air hung heavy with fear, the Spanish moss swaying in the breeze, a chilling reminder of the killer's presence. He stalked the back roads, the sleepy towns, preying on the vulnerable, the unsuspecting. Families barricaded themselves indoors, their homes transformed into fortresses of fear. The sound of a car backfiring, a twig snapping in the night, was enough to send shivers down their spines. The killer was everywhere and nowhere, a ghost story come to life. The authorities, stretched thin and desperate for a lead, appealed to the public for help. Every tip, every whisper of information was meticulously investigated. The pressure mounted, the weight of expectation heavy on their shoulders. They knew that every passing moment could mean another life lost. Knowles continued his reign of terror, his crimes becoming more brazen, his confidence growing with each passing day. He was a predator at the peak of his power, a dark stain on the soul of America. Knowles was a master manipulator. He used charm and charisma to disarm his victims, lulling them into a false sense of security. Once he had gained their trust, he would strike, his violence swift and brutal, leaving no room for resistance. His methods were as varied as his victims. Some were shot, others stabbed, their bodies left to rot in secluded areas. He took trophies from his victims, grim souvenirs of his dark deeds. He documented his crimes, recording his thoughts and feelings in chilling detail. Knowles was a meticulous planner, carefully selecting his targets, studying their routines, exploiting their weaknesses. He was a chameleon, blending into any environment, adapting his appearance to avoid detection. He moved with ease through different social circles, leaving no trace of his true nature. His crimes were not merely acts of violence, they were performances, orchestrated to instill fear and exert control. He was a puppeteer, pulling the strings of his victims' lives, their fates sealed by his twisted will. What drove Paul John Knowles to commit such unspeakable acts? What dark forces lurked within the recesses of his mind, fueling his insatiable thirst for violence? The answer lay in the tangled web of his psyche, a labyrinth of pain, insecurity, and a desperate need for control. Knowles was a narcissist, his ego inflated by the attention his crimes garnered. He craved recognition, validation, even if it came at the cost of human life. He saw himself as a master manipulator, a puppet master, playing a deadly game with the lives of innocent people. He was haunted by a deep-seated insecurity, a belief that he was unworthy of love and acceptance. His crimes were a way of asserting his dominance, of proving his power over others. He took pleasure in the fear he instilled, in the knowledge that he held the power of life and death in his hands. Knowles was a product of his environment, his psyche warped by a childhood marred by neglect and abuse. But he was also a master of his own destiny, choosing to embrace the darkness within him, to revel in the chaos he created. The investigation into Knowles' crimes was a monumental task. The evidence was scattered, fragmented, spread across multiple states. The investigators worked tirelessly, piecing together the puzzle, following the trail of blood and terror that he left in his wake. Witnesses came forward, their memories fragmented, their accounts often contradictory. Crime scene photographs documented the brutality of Knowles' crimes, the chilling efficiency of his methods. Forensic experts analyzed the physical evidence, searching for clues that would lead them to the killer. The investigators faced countless dead ends, false leads, and frustrating setbacks, but they persevered, driven by a relentless pursuit of justice, a determination to bring Knowles to account for his crimes. The tapestry of evidence slowly began to take shape, the threads of the investigation weaving together to form a damning indictment. The weight of expectation was heavy on their shoulders. They knew that the nation was watching, waiting for answers. They knew that the families of the victims deserved justice, closure, a sense that their loved ones had not died in vain. The manhunt for Paul John Knowles reached its climax in a tense standoff with the authorities. He was cornered, trapped, his reign of terror nearing its end. The air crackled with tension, the silence punctuated by the barking of police dogs, the urgent commands of law enforcement officers. Knowles, his eyes wild with desperation, his face etched with the strain of weeks on the run, refused to surrender. He was a caged animal, backed into a corner, his options dwindling with every passing moment. The authorities, their weapons drawn, urged him to give up peacefully, to avoid further bloodshed. Negotiators pleaded with Knowles, trying to reason with him, to appeal to any shred of humanity that might still linger within his twisted soul. He remained defiant, his voice laced with bitterness, his words a chilling reminder of the darkness that consumed him. The standoff stretched on, the tension mounting, the outcome uncertain. The nation held its breath, captivated by the drama unfolding before their eyes. The fate of a serial killer, the pursuit of justice, hung in the balance. The final confrontation ended in a hail of gunfire. Paul John Knowles, the man who had terrorized a nation, was dead. His reign of terror was over, his life extinguished in a violent instant. The news of his demise spread like wildfire, a collective sigh of relief washing over the country. Justice had been served, but at a heavy price. The families of the victims were left to grapple with their grief, their lives forever scarred by Knowles' brutal acts. The scars of his crimes ran deep, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life, the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. The investigation into Knowles' crimes continued, even after his death. There were unanswered questions, loose ends that needed tying up. The authorities were determined to leave no stone unturned, to ensure that every victim received justice, that their stories were not forgotten. Knowles' death brought closure, but it could not erase the pain he had inflicted. The nation mourned the loss of innocent lives, the senseless brutality that had shaken them to their core. The case of Paul John Knowles served as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life, the monsters that can walk among us. The legacy of Paul John Knowles is one of terror and loss. His crimes left an indelible mark on the American psyche, a chilling reminder of the capacity for evil that exists within the human heart. But his story is also one of resilience, of the unwavering pursuit of justice, of the strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable darkness. The families of the victims, though forever scarred by their loss, found solace in the knowledge that Knowles had been brought to justice. They honored the memory of their loved ones, their grief a testament to the enduring power of love and loss. They became advocates for victims' rights, their voices a powerful force for change. The investigators, the law enforcement officers who had worked tirelessly to bring Knowles to justice, carried with them the weight of his crimes, the burden of the lives lost. But they also found strength in their unwavering commitment to justice, their dedication to protecting the innocent. The case of Paul John Knowles serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that evil can lurk in the shadows, that monsters can walk among us. But it also reminds us of the importance of vigilance, of compassion, of the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can endure, that justice can prevail.